Hello guys, and welcome to the Hands-on Medicine. So today's subject is the resting membrane potential. So what it is, you remember last time we talked about all those channels and this membrane potential. I told you like on the membrane the potential is different from the rest of the cell. Well, that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to explain that in more details now. So we will be able to explain the action potential, but you will know what it is kind of after the end of this lecture. It will be like more fast than the last time, don't worry. So let's start with this. The resting membrane potential is the difference of electrical potential across the membrane. Like you have a membrane, it's negatively charged inside and it's positively charged outside. I give you some examples. The resting membrane potentials, RMP, yeah. For skeletal muscle, for example, skeletal / cardiac muscle is the same, is minus 90 millivolt. What does it mean? It means that the potential inside compared to the outside is more negative with the value of minus 90 millivolt. That's it. That's very simple. And remember, it's electro-neutral outside. It's just across the membrane. It's like you have, let me give you an example. It's like you have 100,000 molecules of, of potassium outside. If just one goes outside from the 1,000, it will create this membrane potential. But it will not change the total concentration. That's just a few ions between a huge amount of ions. That's why. So, for smooth muscle cell, I will not write everything, it's minus 50 millivolt. For nerves, it's minus 70 millivolt. For erythrocytes, red blood cells, in case you don't know, it's minus 50 millivolt. But we have excitable tissues. Excitable tissues, it means that you can change this resting membrane potential. It does change with time. And that's how the nerves, for example, they send the message from one to another. There is like an electrical message that goes through. In the skeletal muscle, this electrical, this action potential, it's called action potential, that will change this membrane potential before it will come back to the resting value. But at the moment, it does change. And that's what elicits contraction, for example. For smooth muscle as well, it's the same thing. It's with calcium more. I will explain the difference. I will be more precise. I just wanted to give you an overview of this before going more deep into the details. So, now, let me explain to you how it happens. How do we have this resting membrane potential? Now I'm going to use some values so you remember them. So I will take an example. Let's say a cardiac cell or skeletal cell. Let's say a cell that has a resting membrane potential of minus 90 millivolt. It's not precise, it's pointless at this point. So imagine you have this cell. I will do some spaces here. Some spaces here. And some spaces here to explain to you. So, inside the cell, there is a nucleus. In this nucleus, you have DNA. This DNA is transcribed into messenger RNA, which is translated on the ribosomes into the ER, into proteins, then goes to the Golgi that sends it to the membrane. The details, I'm not doing cellular biology yet. I will do it one day, but not yet. And this creates this pump. I talk about this pump so many times. It's the active transport of Na+, K+, ATPase pump. What does it do? Do you remember? It takes out 3 sodium and takes in 2 potassium. What did I say last time? I said this is an electrogenic pump. What does it mean? It means that it creates a negative potential inside and positive outside. Because it's taking out 3 positive ions from the inside to the outside and bringing 2. So there is -1. So you're losing 1 positive ion from the inside. That's why it's more negative. But this is not the resting membrane potential. This is just the beginning. Here it creates a membrane potential of -5, -10 millivolt. That's it. This pump, that's the only potential it creates. Remember, this -5, it's the difference of potential across the membrane. It doesn't mean it's negative. Like here, it's more negative than here. That's what it really means. So don't think it's negative, no. So, it's -5 and -10. So how come you have -90 millivolt? Weird. Well, you have channels here. This one is a leaky potassium channel. This one is a voltage dependent sodium channel. It has something to do with this, no? Of course it does. So this pump, what does it do? It creates those difference of concentration between the cell and the interstitium, for example. I was talking about that last time. This pump, it creates this difference of concentration. That's because of this pump that you have an extracellular environment more concentrated in Na+, like 140 milliequivalent, and more concentrated in potassium inside. 142, if I'm not wrong. So now you had this electrogenic pump that created this potential. It does something more. It creates a difference of concentration between ions. So what does it happen? How do you have the resting membrane potential? This voltage-gated sodium channel, they're always closed. I'm talking about an excitable tissue. And there is a lot of different channels. We're not going to details, like 30 or 40 different ones. But in physiology, we give just general examples so the people, they get how it works. That's the point. Let's say it's always closed, this one. It does open, but now we'll not talk about this. But this leaky potassium channel, leaky, it's in the name. It's leaky, then it's always open. And what does happen? There is a difference of concentration here for the potassium. It likes to go there. So for the concentration, it goes there. It has a gradient of concentration. But the more it goes there, the more negative is the inside of the cell. And this potassium is positive. So if this is negative there, it's like, I will take the horny man again. And the horny and hungry man. Here there is food. Here there is girls. At the beginning, this man is more hungry than horny. So we go for the food. And the food is a gradient of concentration. He's hungry, he's going for the food first. And he reaches a point when he's not hungry anymore. So he's like, I would like to see some girls now, because I ate enough, so let's go see some girls. It happens to me sometimes. It's a nice feeling. So he's like, I have enough food. Let's come back here. And he comes back to the girls. And he reaches a steady state where he's not hungry anymore, he's not horny anymore, he just rests. That's what happens. You eat, you're with your girlfriend, and then you want to sleep. Well, that's exactly what happens for the potassium. And this resting steady state for potassium is actually -95 millivolts. And that's how you have the resting membrane potential, because those leaky potassium channels are open. So it follows its electrical and chemical concentration gradient until it reaches a steady state. Which means that if you leave this channel open, it won't change a thing. there will be no exchange because he has enough food, he had enough girls, so he's racing now. How can you determine this resting membrane potential? There is a formula for that. I talked about Nernst Equation. I will talk about it more now. I hope that you got it. It was a simple example. And without the pump, you won't create this difference of concentration. Like in ischemia in myocardial tissue, the pump doesn't work anymore, and the concentration of sodium is more inside, it increases, water goes through, and that's what happens in ischemia. You have this hypoxic injury, for example. But I will go through more details after, because in the myocardial tissue, when the concentration of sodium increases inside, it gets depolarized, and it's kind of always depolarized. Anyway, that's how you have this SC elevation and everything on the AKG. But that was an example. Doesn't matter for now. So I was talking about Nernst equation. What is this freaking Nernst equation? Nernst equation is the equation that will calculate for us the resting membrane potential of an ion. So, the formula is this one. It's 2.3 R T Z F log of concentration outside on concentration inside. As simple as that. If you change the value for the concentration of potassium, for example, you will get minus 95 millivolt. As simple as that. I will give you the values for all the ions from now. Like if you open just channel just for one ion, that will give you the resting membrane potential that you could reach. As simple as that. So, the equilibrium potential, that's the name. For potassium, we say it's minus 95. Let's write it there, so we'll keep it there for the rest of the lecture. Minus 95 millivolt. For the sodium, it's plus 65 millivolt. For calcium, it's plus 120 millivolt. And for chlorides, it's minus 90 millivolt. So you see, it's not complicated. With this formula, you can know exactly the resting membrane potential. And why there is this minus and this plus, you take this formula, 2.3 RT on F equals 60, always. That's simple. Z is the charge. If it's potassium, it will be plus 1. If it's sodium, it's plus 1 too. The same, plus 1 as well. If it's calcium, it's plus 2. So it's that's how you determine the Z. It's the valence. It's not complicated. We talked about it before. And log of outside on the inside. You have to know something about log. Log of concentration outside inside equals minus log of inside on concentration outside. That's mathematics. That's how it works. So it really doesn't matter if you forget this formula, because you just remember 60 and you remember the Z and you remember if it's outside or inside or inside or outside. It just doesn't matter at all. So that's how you calculate the equilibrium potential. How do you know the final value? Because here you have plus 1, plus 2, for chloride minus 1, And here 60, here there, here minus. So I will give you a tip so it will be more easy. We know that potassium is more concentrated inside than outside. So you just replace all the values. You don't care about plus, minus. You can put minus or plus wherever you want. Imagine you get 95 millivolt. Well, if you get 95 millivolt, for example, you know that it goes from the inside to the outside. So it will be negative because positive charge are going out. So the equilibrium potential will be negative at the end. You just can guess it. If there is positive ions, like for calcium that's going inside, they're positive and they're coming inside. So it will be positive. And the Z for calcium is 2. So 2 times 60 is 120. As simple as that. You can just guess it. You don't have to remember the formula exactly. You remember 60 and then you do the log of the concentrations and then you can guess. That's very simple. Now the final equation. It's called the Goldman equation. Goldman equation that permits you to calculate the membrane potential if there is more channels that are open. Like if we had this cell as I showed you earlier, if we had a channel that was leaky for potassium and another one leaky for sodium, or just one that is leaky for both, how can you calculate the membrane potential? That's why it's more complicated. So you use this Goldman equation. It's this one. Like if you have a leaky channel for potassium and sodium, it will be the conductance of sodium on the total conductance of the ion times the electrical potential for sodium plus the conductance of K plus on the total conductance of the ion times the electrical potential of potassium. And that's how you calculate it. So you know when everything equilibrates out at steady state, what is the membrane potential? Membrane potential is EM. What's conductance? The more channel you have, because you have like thousands and thousands of channels, the more channels of potassium you have, the highest the conductance of potassium you have. Highest the channels of sodium you have, the highest the conductance of sodium. That's as simple as that. And you divide that by the total conductance. Don't worry, you will never use this equation. You will never use it. It's just to get the concept. To get the concept, you have to see it to just get how it works. So I will give you another formula to make it more clear for all of you. We're talking, without the formula, we'll explain to you the concept is better. We're talking about the driving force. If the resting membrane potential is minus 90 millivolts, and you open this voltage-gated sodium channel, for example, what will happen? You increase the conductance of sodium that was 0 before. So there is a driving force. This is minus 90 millivolts, but it wants to go to 65 millivolts. So the driving force is huge from minus 90 to plus 65. There is like 155 millivolts. It's huge. For potassium, if you keep it open, from minus 95 to minus 90, there is like 5 millivolts of difference. So if you open a sodium channel, for example, the driving force will be huge for it. So it will depolarize the cell. It will go from minus 90 to 0 millivolts, for example. And the more you increase it, the more channels open of sodium. They're voltage dependent. If they reach minus 60 millivolt, for example, they open, and the more they open, the more the conductance open, and the more they depolarize, and it goes following the equilibrium potential of sodium. That's how the action potential works. In this lecture, I chose to speak just about the resting membrane potential. So now, that's all you need to know about it. You don't need to know more. I will just give you a last example. In the neuromuscular junction, you have acetylcholine and you have the motor end plate. It's ligand gated. When acetylcholine attaches here, this opens and it is leaking through sodium and potassium. It means that sodium goes in and potassium goes out. But what I told you, it's already at minus 90 millivolt. So what will it change for the potassium? It won't change much. So the driving force for sodium, it's way, way higher. So it will equilibrate at 0 millivolt, approximately. Why it's not a value between minus 95 and plus 65? Because the driving force of sodium is highest. So the current will go more from there. It will be stronger. So it will go toward the equilibrium potential of sodium more. That's how you get this 0 value. That's it. I don't think it was that complicated. Now that you got how the resting membrane potential is created, and you get the Nernst equation to know the equilibrium potential for all the ions. Now you talk about the driving force. So the more the driving force, the more it will go towards the ion with the highest driving force. In this example, it will be sodium. But it will not quite reach plus 65 millivolt because of the Goldman equation. The conductance of potassium is high too. So we divide by the total conductance. And we reach like an equilibrium of 0 millivolt. That's how it really happens. When you are in the nerve, for example, you have like an impulse. You have the leaky channel of potassium and you have the voltage gated channel of sodium. You have a lot of them. And you have an action potential that comes like an electrical depolarization. Depolarization, which means that it's plus inside, for example. That comes from other nerves. They excite one another. And it reaches from 90 millivolt at the beginning, it reaches like minus 60. At minus 60, those channels of sodium, they open. And when they do, they drive it toward the equilibrium potential of plus 60. And that's how you have the action potential. I will talk more about this when we talk about the nerves and the myelin, how the conduction is faster with myelin and without myelin. And things like that, I think it will be quite interesting because it will make you understand how the nerve, they communicate between them. Now you kind of understood how the nerve communicates with the muscle. It's more complicated, I will explain it further in another video. But now you get the point how it kind of works. That's why I did the channel before, because I will talk a lot about channels, about conductance. Like in the nerve, the conductance of potassium and chloride is high, very high at the beginning, and for the sodium it's low. So here it's minus 90 for chloride, minus 95 for potassium. So it will be minus 60 millivolt. Why? It's high here, and it's low here, but there is still sodium. And remember, the driving force is high, so it takes it to minus 70 resting membrane potential. But then when it depolarizes, the other opens. That's to give you an example to show you how we talk about it. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. You don't have to remember the formula, just remember the idea. The concept is important. The formula you can forget. I remember it because I teach it and I have to see it again and again. That's why, but you don't need that. So, bon, I hope that you understood. It was clear. I tried to make it as clear as possible. So, see you next week, I guess. Bye bye.